Once upon a time there was a beautiful unicorn named Sparkle who lived in a magical forest. Sparkle had a flowing rainbow mane and a shimmery white coat. She spent her days frolicking through the forest and using her healing magic to help the woodland creatures. One day while Sparkle was drinking from a babbling brook, she noticed a sad bunny on the other side of the stream. "What's wrong?" Sparkle asked. The bunny explained that her best friend was sick, and none of the animal doctors in the forest could make her better. Sparkle wanted to help. She used her magic horn to cast a healing spell. Sparkling mist drifted over the forest until it reached the bunny's friend. Suddenly the sick bunny felt completely better. The two bunnies were so happy. They thanked Sparkle for using her special magic. After that, animals from all over the forest started coming to Sparkle when they needed help. One day, a baby deer came bounding up to the unicorn. He told Sparkle that he had hurt his leg and couldn't walk on it. Sparkle gently touched her horn to the deer's injured leg. With a flash of light, the leg was healed. The baby deer jumped for joy and scampered off on his 4 healthy legs. Another time, Sparkle came across a mama bird whose wing was injured. Sparkle was able to fix it right up with her magic. Whenever any animal had an illness, injury, or sadness, Sparkle knew just how to help. Sparkle loved using her special powers to help others and spread kindness throughout the forest. One sunny afternoon, Sparkle was taking a nap by a babbling brook when she heard a loud rumbling noise. She looked up and saw dark storm clouds gathering overhead. Sparkle could tell that a big storm was coming. The wind started howling through the trees and animals ran to hide from the pouring rain. Sparkle knew she had to help. She flew up in the sky and faced the storm clouds. With all her might, she shot a beam of magic from her horn into the clouds. The dark clouds turned white and fluffy. Sunshine streamed through. Sparkle had used her healing magic to turn the rainstorm into a sunshower that filled the forest with rainbows. The animals were so grateful to Sparkle for bringing back the sunshine. From that day on, Sparkle became known far and wide as the magical unicorn who could fix anything with her special powers. Animals traveled from forests, fields, and rivers across the land to seek Sparkle's help. One scorching hot summer, a family of otters arrived, gasping that the pond they lived in had entirely dried up under the blazing sun. Sparkle walked to the bone-dry pond and tapped her glittering horn on the cracked earth. With a gushing sound, the pond magically refilled with fresh, clear water. The delighted otters plunged in. Next, a gaggle of hummingbirds flew to Sparkle saying they couldn't find any flowers in bloom. The unicorn's horn shone brightly as cascades of flowers sprouted in the meadows. Soon the hummingbirds were buzzing happily among the blossoms. No matter what problem the animals had, Sparkle always knew how to make things right with her special magic. The animals loved Sparkle for using her powers to spread happiness through the land. But one grumpy old badger named Boris resented the unicorn. Boris had once hurt his back, but was too stubborn to ask Sparkle for help. He didn't understand why the other animals made such a fuss over Sparkle's talents. "I could heal too if I had some silly magic horn," Boris grumped. The animals tried to explain to Boris how Sparkle asked for nothing in return for helping anyone in need. But Boris wouldn't listen. He just scowled and complained all day in his den. One morning, Boris woke up to find he couldn't move his hind legs. He had hurt his back again from all his grumbling and grousing. The old badger's friends urged him to go visit Sparkle. Boris finally dragged himself through the forest until he found the unicorn by her favorite babbling brook. He confessed that his back pain was so bad he couldn't walk. For the first time, Boris's angry face softened. "Please help me," he whispered. Kind as ever, Sparkle touched her glowing horn to Boris's back and healed him with her magic. From that day on, Boris became one of Sparkle's best friends. Though Sparkle was happy to keep helping all the creatures of the forest, she sometimes felt lonely as the only magical unicorn. One twilight, as Sparkle sat gazing up at the evening star, she made a wish. "I wish I had another unicorn friend who understood my special powers," she whispered. Suddenly, the star twinkled brightly and began to lower from the sky toward Sparkle. The light took the shape of a unicorn with a silver coat and mane as dazzling as the night sky. "Don't be afraid, I heard your wish and I'm here to help," said the unicorn in a voice as soothing as the night breeze. He told Sparkle his name was Moonbeam and her wish had summoned him from his home in the heavens. Moonbeam's magic horn could control the phases of the moon and the tides. Sparkle was overjoyed to meet another magical unicorn. Now whenever one of them needed help or felt tired or lonely, they could always count on each other. Together they used their combined gifts to keep the forest in balance and bring peace and beauty to the land. Once upon a time there was a beautiful unicorn named Stardust who lived in a magical forest. Stardust loved frolicking through the trees and making friends with all of the woodland creatures. One sunny morning, Stardust was drinking from a babbling brook when she noticed some dark clouds rolling in. She looked up and saw the sky growing dark. Suddenly, there was a bright flash and a loud clap of thunder. Stardust was startled by the thunderstorm that had appeared so quickly. The raindrops started falling heavily through the trees. Stardust started galloping through the forest trying to find shelter from the pouring rain. She stumbled upon a small, hidden cave and went inside just as the rain began to fall harder. It was dark and damp in the cave. Stardust felt scared being all alone in the creepy cave while the thunderstorm raged outside. As she huddled in the cave, shaking from fear and cold, she noticed something glowing at the back of the cave. Stardust carefully walked deeper into the cave towards the glowing light. She couldn't believe her eyes when she saw a magical glowing crystal. It was bright purple and twinkling beautifully. Stardust reached out and touched the crystal. Suddenly there was a blinding flash of light. Stardust had to shut her eyes against the brightness. She felt a strange tingling sensation go through her body. When she opened her eyes, she looked down and jumped back in shock. Her beautiful white fur and rainbow mane were gone. In their place were shiny purple scales and leathery dragon wings. Somehow, the magical crystal had turned Stardust from a unicorn into a dragon. She opened her mouth and let out a small roar of surprise. How is this possible? Stardust wondered in disbelief. She looked down at her new scaly body and large wings in awe. As the storm passed, Stardust carefully left the cave and entered the lush, soaked forest. She looked around for any other creatures who might be able to help her change back into a unicorn. But all of the animals were hidden safely in their homes, waiting for the storm to fully pass. Stardust glided through the trees, flapping her large, powerful wings. She soon realized she could now fly high above the forest. As she soared through the sky, she looked down in amazement at the tiny forest below her. She had never seen it from so high up before. As she flew over the sparkling blue river that cut through the trees, Stardust had an idea. She remembered hearing stories about wise old turtles that lived in the depths of the river. Surely they would know what to do. Stardust carefully swooped down and landed at the river's edge. "Hello," she called out. "Are there any turtles who can help me?" Two wrinkly turtles slowly poked their heads out of the water. "What seems to be the trouble, young dragon?" one asked. Stardust explained what had happened with the magical crystal. I see," said the turtle. "Unfortunately, the only way to reverse the spell is by waiting for the next full moon, when the crystal's magic will fade." Stardust was disappointed to hear she was stuck as a dragon for now. But she decided to try and make the most of it. Over the next few weeks, she practiced using her wings and fire breath. She found she could now reach the highest trees and see the forest from new heights. And cooking her food with a tiny fire was pretty handy. The day of the full moon finally arrived. Stardust eagerly flew back to the magical cave, hoping the crystal would transform her back to a unicorn. She waited anxiously as the moonlight shone brightly on the crystal. Suddenly, the crystal began to glow brightly again. Stardust braced herself as the now familiar tingling feeling rushed through her. When she opened her eyes, her fur, mane and horn had returned. She was a unicorn once more. Stardust frolicked excitedly out of the cave and through the forest back home, so happy to be herself again. But she now had an even greater appreciation for the forest she called home, thanks to her time spent flying high in the skies as a dragon. And she learned to approach new experiences and transformations with an open mind. The end.